few years ago, I made a video where I played Für Elise in 6 jazz styles. And it went viral with over 600,000 views. So what's my secret to creating viral jazz arrangements of classical music? Well, today I'm going to reveal my 6-step process for how I can turn any classical piece into jazz so that you can do the same. All right, so we're going to use Für Elise as our example. You've probably heard the tune, super popular, and it makes for a great tune to turn into jazz. All right, next I'm gonna show you my 6-step process, but before we do this, if you're enjoying the video, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. So the first step is to identify your chords, and if you play Für Elise, you might notice that the first chord is a simple A minor chord, and then if you keep going, have an E major chord, and then these chords basically repeat for the rest of the tune. That's an A minor, E, A minor. All right, step number 2 is to create a lead sheet. And a lead sheet is what jazz musicians use to take a song like this and make it sound jazzy. And so a lead sheet has your basic melody and chords. So how do you take Für Elise and turn it into a lead sheet? Well, the first step is to take your melody and turn it into 4 beats per measure. And usually when you're playing jazz tunes like swing tunes, you have 4 beats per measure. And if you look at Für Elise, there are 3 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So if you simplify your melody and you change the length of each note, you can put it in 4 beats like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then it repeats. Now let's add the basic chords. We have A minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then it repeats. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now you might be thinking, Johnny, that sounds pretty nice, but it doesn't sound very jazzy. And so this brings us to the next step. If you want your chords to sound jazzier, then you need to add what I call the jazz note. And if you want your chords to sound jazzy, you do not want to play ordinary minor and major chords. Instead, you want to add this jazz note, okay? So here's how you do it. On a minor chord, instead of playing an A minor, you play an A minor 6. Okay, and it has a super cool sound. Okay, that is an A minor 6. I'm just inverting the chord down. Same with your E chord. Instead of playing an E major, you can add the 7th to this chord, the D, and make it an E7 chord. And so now when you get to the E7 chord, it sounds way cooler. Check it out. We're gonna start on A. Okay, there's that A. Here's the E. Okay, has a little more of a bluesy, jazzy sound to it. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Johnny, it's starting to sound a little more jazzy, but I'm getting tired of playing the same chords over and over. I want to add some chords. And these are chords that jazz musicians will add anytime they're just sitting on one chord for a long period of time. Now there's a lot of different types of passing chords, but probably the most common for jazz musicians is the 5 chord. And it's actually very simple. Let's say you are on an A minor 6. This is kind of like your chord target. Well, you can add a 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in front of your chord target. So you can add an E7 chord before you get to that A minor 6. And you can also do this with your other chords. Like when you get to the E7 chord, chord in the tune, you could add a 5 chord in front of this chord. So what's the 5 chord of E7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a B. Okay? Now, most of the time when jazz musicians play the B chord, they'll play it as a minor 7 chord with a flat 5, okay? So usually in front of the E7 chord, they'll play this minor 7 flat 5 chord and then their target chord of E7. However, you can also play your B chord as a B7 chord or a B dominant 7 chord. So you'll see it both ways. You'll see minor 7 with a flat 5 and you'll see dominant 7. You can do either one before your E chord. Lastly, you can stack your 5 chords in front of each other. So let's say you're targeting an A minor 6 chord. Well, you can put the 5 chord in front of that, which is E7, and in front of the E7, you could put the 5 chord of E7, which is a B minor 7 flat 5, or I mentioned you can do a B7. So how then can you use these filler chords in Für Elise? Well, again, there's lots of ways to do it, but here's one way that you could do it if you wanted to arrange this tune. So we're starting on an A minor 6 chord, and then you could go to your B chord. That's that minor 7 flat 5, E7, and then back to your A minor 7 chord. So those are your stacked fifths, right? This is the 5 of this is the 5 of this. It's called a minor 2-5-1, by the way, super common progression in jazz. So we have, and then you could throw a quick 5 chord in on the E, and then back to A, okay? Continue with the melody. Ooh, let's go to that 5 chord of E. Okay, but let's make it a B7. Back to the A minor chord, and then we're gonna sit on this chord. Let's throw in that 2-5-1, 2, 5, and that brings us back to A minor. Let's do that 2-5-1 again. Here's the 5 of A minor, sounding great. And let's go to a 5 chord again. We're just filling in with some chords. Back to your A minor. Let's go to that 2 chord and we'll do dominant. Sounds nice. And the 5 chord. And then back to the A minor 6. And you can repeat it. By the way, you can download and print the lesson sheet music, and you can change the key of this lesson with the click of one button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put a link to all of that below. All right, step number 5 is to add some nice spicy notes to your chords. And I did mention this jazz note that you can add to your chords, but guess what? There are even more notes that you can add to these chords to make them sound really cool and jazzy, and it's actually not as hard as it looks. So we're gonna look at basically 2 chords in this arrangement. We're gonna look at that E7 chord, and there are actually 4 notes that you can add to this chord. The first one is the F, the next one is the F sharp, the G, and the C, okay? You can add all of these to the E7, and you get some really cool, sounding notes when you play that chord. These are called chord extensions and chord alterations. So this is called the flat 9, this is called the 9, this is called a sharp 9, and this is called a flat 13. But don't worry about the names if this is going over your head. I just want you to understand the basic idea. It will make sense over time as you're exposed to these concepts. On the B7 chord, you can add 2 really nice notes, and you're gonna hear me do this later. You can add the G sharp and the G, okay? This is called the 13, and this one's called the flat 13, okay? And again, you're gonna hear this in just a little bit, how to color this chord, okay, with these chord extensions and alterations. All right, before I teach you the final step, if you want to truly understand jazz piano, you want to understand how chords work and how to add passing chords and play lead sheets and popular jazz tunes, and even how to create a beautiful jazz solo, I recommend that you check out our jazz learning tracks over at pianowithjohnny.com. We have our jazz ballads track, our jazz swing track, and our Latin jazz track. These learning tracks have step-by-step courses for your playing level, and they will teach you everything that you need to know to get started playing in the jazz style. So I'll put a link to some of those tracks below. All right, we're in the final step, and in this step, you're gonna learn how to put all the pieces together. We're gonna take the melody, the chords, the passing chords, and those extra spicy notes, and you're gonna see exactly how to take each one of these techniques and turn it into an awesome jazz arrangement. First, I'll play the full thing for you at tempo, and then I'll break it down so you can understand exactly what I'm doing. So I'm starting with my A minor 6 chord, but I'm spreading the notes out. You see that? So left hand, little pickup E, A. You're gonna jump to my A minor 6 chord. In my right hand, I'm just using some notes from the chord. You see that? Really simple. You put the hands together. Then we have, okay, I'm basically playing that B minor 7 flat 5, but I'm spreading the notes out. Remember the chord? And then we have, this is the E7, but I'm spreading the notes out, and look, I'm adding an F natural to my E7 chord. Remember that this is the flat 9, okay? So we have, and then I've got this. Really nice sound, okay? So it's an A minor 6. There's the chord. I'm doing a little chord pop, outer, inner. See that? And then my E7 chord, I'm adding the sharp 9 to this chord. Okay, really nice. There's my flat 9, and then I end on my A minor 6 like this. Melody continues, and then I love this measure. Listen to this. Really nice. What am I playing? Well, it's a B7 chord, but I'm adding the G sharp, which recall earlier I said this is the 13. You can add it to a B7 chord. So I'm spreading the notes out, and I'm playing a B13 to a B flat 13. See that? And then we go to our E chord like this, and I'm adding an F sharp, which is the 9. Okay, so we have E chord, and then the melody, and then we continue. This is just a simple A minor 6 chord with these little chord pops underneath it. And then we have, ooh, super cool and jazzy. This is that B minor 7 flat 5, it's spread out, okay? And then I love this chord. Very crunchy jazz chord. This is an E7, and I'm adding a sharp 9, and I'm also adding a flat 13 to this chord. Remember I said you could add these notes to the chords, okay? So it's an E7 with a flat 13 and a sharp 9, really cool. Then it repeats with the same notes. B chord, and then it changes here to my E chord with the melody, and then we end with these little chord pops in the middle. Again, it's an A minor 6 chord, just spreading the notes out in both hands, and then I end with a little A minor 6. I roll it up on the top and grab a little A bass note to put a little button on the end. And here it is, nice and slowly if you want to practice along. I'll count you off. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I encourage you to take other classical tunes and try playing them in jazz. And be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have tons of step-by-step courses for all playing levels, a huge community of students, we do live learning events, and we have a ton of fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.